It's really not a lot of money. Like to someone else, they might think, oh, 100 grand's a lot. It gets tied up quickly. And at that point, I was literally buying cars, and I would spend all my money on cars and have like $6 in my bank account.
What they see on social media is a come up that's quick. And I don't like that because I think there's always a background story to it.
Sure.
And a lot of, failure and all that. So where does this start?
I used to collect and sell shoes back in high school, and I got my first job at 14. So all my money went to all the Jordans. So I would literally go at like 2 in the morning, wait outside in line when they had like the Jordan packages and all that stuff.
That's pretty cool.
I'd buy as many as I can, and I'd flip those, and I would trade shoes all the time. And then I sold my entire shoe collection at like 15 or 16 and bought my first car.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Back then, were they making as much money as they are now?
I think back then was more of a chase to get shoes. You'd have to like sit outside and do all these things. Now you have online where you literally just go online and order it, or you do a proxy bot to get, the shoes at cost. So I think back then it was more of a thrill to like just camp out and wait in line for 6 hours for a stupid pair of sneakers.
Yeah, the experience was different.
Correct.
It was fun. You met people in line.
Yep.
It was a camaraderie.
Yeah, you'd wear your nicest pair of shoes in line because everyone's going to look, and then you just sit there for 6 hours.
And high school, you went to high school here in Orlando?
No, so I grew up in Tampa.
Okay.
I got my first job at like 14. I finagled my way into a call center because my uncle was a site director there.
Okay.
Like legit job. Then I dropped out of high school at like 16 years old. And at 17, I got fired, and then it felt weird because I was used to working I was working from 14 to 17, like a legit job. I was on payroll, like they had child labor laws, like the whole nine. So
let me ask you something though. In that job, the 14 to 17, that was cold calling?
I did all kinds of stuff there, but we did like T-Mobile, AT&T, like Fortune 500 companies.
Right. Selling yellow pages, doing cold calling, all that kind of stuff really trains you to do sales, right?
Yeah, that's what got my foot in the door. And I kind of got interested into sales doing that, even though I hated telemarketing down the road. Like it got my foot in the door to have an interest for sales.
Yeah, and you lose a little bit of the fear.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of people have that fear of sales.
Well, then I went to, so it's one thing for someone to tell you to, can I curse on you?
Sure.
Oh, it's one thing to tell someone to fuck off on the phone, but then I started doing direct marketing. This is me going business to business, face to face with people, and then they tell me to fuck off or leave their place. So that was a bit uncomfortable, but then I got used to that, like being told to screw off and all that, and I think that definitely made me even more stronger because it's like talking to a girl. Like you could text and call her, but when you talk to her in person, it's obviously a little different, especially if you guys are meeting like for the first time and stuff, It
is. And when you mean direct marketing, you went to, to business, selling what?
Office supplies. So we were actually a wholesaler for Staples. So I'd go to like attorneys' offices, car dealerships, pretty much any office that wasn't corporate that uses office supplies, and we'd sell like cases of paper, toner, laser printers. It's funny because my employees, like, they'll be like, I don't know how to work this printer. What's a toner and all this? I'm like, move out the way. I got this. This is a TN360, brother, a drum, the whole nine. So
you know all about it. Yeah, yep. That's funny. And so you go in the direct marketing. Now you're what, 21, right?
Correct. Oh, so here it gets better. So I finagled my way into that job too because I had dropped out of high school around 16 or 17. So I lied on my resume and put that I was 18, and I put that I graduated, and they didn't check or anything. So I
don't think they were checking back.
No. So I kind of finagled my way into that job too.
Did you ever go back and graduate from high school or no?
I started to like get my GED, but then I just got tired of it, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep working at this point.
Right.
Because I was working with people that had like master's degrees, and that's one thing I noticed. So when I worked at the marketing firm, we learned a little bit about HR and building our team and stuff like that once I got kind of seasoned into that job. And I started noticing, I'm like, holy crap, like all these people have masters and degrees and all this stuff, and they're like applying here. I'm like, you don't even need a degree to work here. I don't have a degree. I don't even have a high school degree. So that kind of opened up my eyes, because I'm like, why are these people that have degrees like applying to these kinds of jobs?
I agree.
When you don't really need it.
The landscape was a little bit different in that time, but yeah, I mean, that was what, 2012?
11, 12, yeah.
11, 12. I went back into the job market in 2010, and it was hard to find a job.
Oh, so you were in search in 2010?
In 2010, yeah. My dad had fired me from the supermarket business.
Your dad fired you?
Yeah. Yeah. My dad fired me.
How does that happen?
It's a funny story, but I got mad at him because I was working really long hours. I mean, I was working 18 hours a day. Okay, 7 days a week.
Was this a market in Puerto Rico?
Supermarket in Puerto Rico, yeah.
What was it called?
Selectos.
Yep.
Yeah. And, one day I said, man, I'm going to keep working here. And then one of these days, God forbid, something happens to you. My sisters are going to come in here and they're all going to want a piece of this business.
Yep.
Give me a piece now, because I'm not going to work my ass off and then just end up with a piece, So I said, why don't we buy this supermarket over here and I'll own that one? And he's like, no, it's a piece of shit supermarket. I don't want to buy it, right? So I went to the guy myself and tried to buy it with no money. Told the guy, I have no money. I'll find the money. Just give me the financials. I'll find the money. Don't worry about it. He called my dad because they knew each other. Mm-hmm. And my dad came back, fired me, and bought the supermarket to teach me a lesson.
Oh, wow.
Long story short, that's when I opened the food truck and I go into the restaurant business. So then in 13, you leave that job.
Heading back from the field, because we would drive like 45 minutes to our territory and then drive back. And it's a Friday. We normally get paid in the evening once we come back.
Okay.
And I had like a shit paycheck, and I'm trying to put gas in my car. I'm like, fuck, I don't have no money. So I'm like scrounging through my car looking for change, and I remember it was like $1.85. So I go inside 7-Eleven, and I'm like, hey, can I, get $1.85 on pump 5 or whatever? And this guy behind me like just taps me on the shoulder and hands me a $5 bill. I'm like, well, what are you doing, bro? And he's like, here. I was like, damn. I didn't want to take it. I'm like, I didn't really have a choice either. Yeah, I definitely needed it. So anyways, after that, I kind of just like, I sat in the car for like 10 minutes. I didn't even leave the gas station yet. I was like, I got to figure something else out. Like this just isn't the
gonna work.
Yeah, it's not gonna work for me. So I have to figure something out.
Good. What clicked?
The cool thing about what you've done in the past, from jobs and businesses and just decisions you've made, whether they're good or bad, I think that actually helps you get to where you are now. Because had I not did that direct marketing job, I would have never started the car business. So when I did direct marketing, I got job offers for like real estate, car dealerships, because they see a good salesperson come in and they're like, well, shit, I want to hire you, Sure. So I called this car dealer up that I knew, and I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm cool with working with you. I have a little bit of money saved up. Let me buy a couple cars and kind of learn the ropes. So I started just buying cars on Craigslist and auctions. The first car I bought at an auction, I lost my ass on it. So
Really?
Yeah.
What car was it?
Shit.
Do you remember?
It was, it was a Cadillac Catira, I think.
Okay.
You probably don't know what that is. I didn't either. It was like $800, and I'm driving it out the auction, and like 20 minutes later, like the head gasket just blows.
Oh no.
Yep.
Fuck.
Then I bought like 3-4 other cars, and they all had issues. Because when you're buying cars for like $1,000, $1,500,
they have
like,
an issue.
You'll be lucky to make it out of the auction.
Yeah.
So I'd have a third gear rule. So once you leave the auction and you make it past third gear, I'm like, you're good.
You're good.
So after third gear, I'm like, all right, cool. But then your car overheats like 20 minutes later. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. So what would you do? You would fix them and then just go out and sell them?
Well, that's the other problem. It's like I just started the car business, so like I didn't know any mechanics. I didn't know any like body people. I didn't have like any connections. So when you're starting something new, like it's like you need to find all these tools to utilize and become successful, So I got to the point where I had all these cars and they all had issues, so I just decided to take losses on all of them. And then something clicked with me. I was like, I need to start buying differently. So then I'd start waking up earlier. I'd go to the auction. I'd test drive the cars. I started becoming more mechanically inclined because I didn't know. I didn't know how to look for an oil leak. I didn't know how to inspect the car.
Right.
So I just started learning, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. So I need to figure out some way to like be good at it. But it really took me probably like 4 years to really get the hang of things. And the thing with the car business is like each mistake costs you money. So, there was a point where I'm like, I don't think this is for me. I have all these cars. I can't sell them. I got to figure something out.
Did you have a dealership location, or you just did it like...
No, so this is when I was buying under someone else's dealer's license, because had I opened up my own dealership like right then and there, I'd be out of business.
Okay.
So I decided to buy under this guy's license and learn all the good things he did, but most importantly learn the bad things he did. So I went from him then to another person, and then finally I met my friend Ryan, who actually is the first person to take me to your spot. He's like, yo, we got to go to Pig Floyd's. This place is good.
Cool.
I started buying cars under his dealer's license, and I kind of had my own niche now. I was buying like the BMW, the Audis, the Mercedes, like the pre-owned, not lower level, but just like, $5,000 range.
Okay.
I was buying cleaner cars that had less issues, and I was making more profit margins, because he told me, he's like, find a niche. Like, don't just buy like all these different types of cars. Like, have a niche. You like the European cars, obviously, so why don't you stick to that?
Okay.
So I did that, and then the most important thing was I learned all the back-end operations of how to run a business, because nobody teaches you like, hey, pay your sales taxes on time, because Department of Revenue, they're like the mafia. Yeah, they'll literally show up and shut you down, or like making sure you're processing deals on time with the DMV, and like making sure you have money set aside to pay your taxes for that year. Like, these are all things I had no idea about.
Right. They don't teach that in school, and I think they should.
Correct. Learning all that for me was a challenge itself, but it starts to become a process, and then it's like common sense. It's like, okay, cool. Every 20th of the month I pay my sales tax, or I do this, I do that. Now I have my accountant, and I have all these people I pay to do that, because like a couple years ago I was doing my own taxes and stuff, and I was sitting in my office. I'm like, dude, this is miserable. I'm like, I would greatly pay someone else to just do this for me.
It takes away from the time that you have to do what you need to do to grow the business.
100%. Plus I get like anxiety. I'm like, oh, I got to do my taxes, and like, you just sit there and you don't ever do it, because it's like doing a chore at home. It's like, I don't want to clean my room.
Sure. Then in 2017 is when you opened Falcon?
Yep. So 2017, I opened up Falcon. At that point, I had...
I'm sorry, I said... I say Falcon.
It's okay. Falcon, Falcon. We can go either way. So in 2017, I opened up Falcon, and at that point, I had kind of found my niche. I started with about like $5,000. I had grew that to almost $120,000, and this is my own money, because I didn't have credit back then, so I couldn't get credit lines. I couldn't do any of that. So I had managed to turn $5,000 close to like $120,000.
That's impressive.
I was buying these mid-level cars. I opened up a service shop because I met mechanics, and I figured it'd be easier for me to have someone in-house. And then also, I made my dad quit his job. My dad was in Tampa. He worked at the shipyard, working on like Coast Guard boats and like welding and primering, like just hard labor work. I'm like, dude, you got to get out of there, because like you're gonna die. All the fumes and just like chemicals you inhale and stuff. So
he was in the restaurant business, you told me.
Correct. Yeah. Point. So prior to that, he was in the restaurant business for like 12 years at a pizza place, and he was working from literally I'd see him leave at 10:30 in the morning every day, and he wouldn't get back till like 11:30.
Shit. Long hours, man.
Crazy long hours. So that's actually where I got some of my like hard working skills, with just seeing my dad. Like, my dad always found a way to make it happen for me, and if I ever needed anything, like, he was always there.
So you tell him, quit your job.
Yeah, so I had this bright idea. I'm like, dude, quit your job. I think my dad had like $60K saved in his 401k. I'm like, dude, you're gonna think I'm crazy. Let's cash out on your 401k. I'll pay you back later. I want to grow the business. I'll have you come, and I'll teach you everything. And he did it. He did it, yeah.
Really?
No questions asked.
That's amazing.
But I got to the point though where at least I was able to show him like, hey, I have this under control also, because I didn't want to do that at the beginning of me starting the business, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay, tell me about that first year though, because now you're in business and it's your name.
Yep.
Right?
So now I'm in business. Now I'm figuring out how to do sales tax. I'm running around doing everything, washing the cars, taking them to the mechanic shop. I'm selling the cars. I'm taking on the phone calls. I'm listing all these cars online. I was doing everything.
Everything.
Yep.
Did you ever think back to that time when you were sitting in that 7-Eleven in the car and going like, shit, you know, I've moved up, right?
At that point, I didn't, man. I think like, I think once I got into the exotics, like, do you ever like just get to a point and then you just like rewind, like from like being 16 years old to now? So I had like a rewind moment, and I just started thinking and starting to remember stuff, and then that memory came up, and I'm like, holy shit, man, like I can't believe it.
It's amazing when you sit back and you go like, shit, I was there. I was desperate. It was a bad moment.
I was eating McDonald's every day, and like now they don't even have the dollar menu. So I would have been screwed back then.
You would have been screwed.
My go-to was the chicken sandwich, and then I'd switch it up the next day. I'd get the salad, and then I'd get a McDouble with mac sauce. So it's like a Big Mac, but it was only $1. So
That's funny, man.
I'd switch it up every day.
You would hustle. You would hustle
Yeah,
the McDonald's
man.
menu.
Yep.
That's cool. So you open. How's the dynamic with your dad? Like now you're 1 year into it. Your dad comes to work with you. How does that go? Because I worked with my dad and it didn't work.
So me and my dad have always had a good relationship. It's funny now. I feel like my dad's my kid in a sense, because I'm like teaching him the ropes. I'm showing him everything. It was a good dynamic because he helped me, and like I always said, like I'd rather pay my dad than pay someone else who I can't trust and who's not gonna take care of the business. So, me and my dad would work from like 9 a.m, sometimes till like 3 a.m. that day. Really? Whether it was getting our service shop ready, painting the walls, cleaning up, making sure we have the cars ready so we can list them properly. So my dad was actually a huge help. He was someone I trusted, and I knew I could count on him for if I needed a car to, get cleaned up, picked up, go to the mechanic, whatever. So my dad's always had a down for whatever mentality.
That's good.
Obviously we have our clashings, but even now when we clash, I think the cool thing is like my dad knows that I know what I'm doing.
He respects you.
I kind of already gotten past that proving phase from making him quit his job to then showing him this works. I remember when he quit his job and came with me, I was trying so hard to like sell as many cars as I can just to kind of show him like, and then we'd sell a couple cars and we sold more and we started growing. And my favorite thing is my dad always had an opinion like, why'd you buy this car? What the hell is this?
And it would work.
A couple months ago, I bought a Rolls Royce limousine. I don't know if you saw it.
I did. Yeah.
My dad gets to the shop and he's like, what the fuck is this? He's like, you're never going to sell this. I'm like, Dad, there's an ass for every chair.
There's an ass for every chair.
So we sold the limo, dude, and made a killing on it.
Did you?
Killing. Murdered it.
Really? Mm-hmm. You were doing Europeans? You decided to stay in that niche?
Correct. So I would focus on the European. That was my niche. Mm-hmm. But I also had to stretch my money out because Sure. It's really not a lot of money. Like to someone else, they might think, $100,000's a lot. But when you're buying these cars, you have to do repairs. You're paying rent. It gets tied up quickly. And at that point, I was literally buying cars, and I would spend all my money on cars and have like $6 in my bank account. Yeah, I'm a huge risk taker.
Well, that's good.
Yep, and I'll still do it now sometimes. We'll
Really?
literally buy these cars, and sometimes if I just got to make it work, I do it because like now we're obviously selling like $200,000 to $300,000 cars each car. So I was joking with my business partner about it. I'm like, bro, we're literally selling mortgages on wheels. Like
you are.
We're selling houses on wheels.
You are.
But now I have that confidence though in that era to like sell those cars. So like half the times I buy these cars, I already know who I'm selling it to sometimes.
Yeah, I saw that you sold one yesterday on Instagram.
Posted it up. Guy literally wrote me how much and wired me the money. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Impressive. So you brought in somebody?
Correct. So prior to me meeting my business partner, me and my friend Will, Auto Tuning House.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Will.
Shout out to Will. I love you, man. One of my friends was like, "Oh, you should talk to him. He has a service shop." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Where at?" And he was down the street.
In the middle of bumblefuck Egypt over there in Longwood.
Correct.
Right?
So my dealership was in Castleberry. I was on a dirt lot.
Okay.
So I was like, cool, I'm going to go pull up on you. I'm going to go see you. That's just the type of person I was. Like, if you did something interesting, I want to find out what you're doing. So long story short, went to his shop. Then it turned into me borrowing tools from him. Then it turned into my mechanic messing up a car. So I took it to him, and we hit it off, and he's one of my best friends now. So I was like, dude, because I always want to do an indoor showroom. So my idea was to have all these European cars inside instead of outside. So I told him, I said, dude, I think it'll be a great idea if you put your service shop in the back. I have my showroom in the front, and we split the rent, because back then I was like, I don't know if I can afford it. I didn't want to really take the risk. So
is that when you took the location over here
on Edgewater?
On Edgewater,
yep.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then one day I'm on a Copart auction. I'm looking at this R8. I'm like, damn, I wish I could afford to drive this. You know, I've always liked exotic cars. And then Will like looks over to me. He's like, oh, I know a guy. I'm like, the fuck you mean you know a guy? He's like, I'll make a phone call. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And sure enough, that was my business partner, Eric. And he was like, all right, cool, let's do it. I'm like, what the fuck? So anyways, we never bought the car, but he said, look, man, I think we can do something bigger than this one car. Let's meet up and talk.
Your business partner said this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's got big mentality.
Correct. He's in real estate. He's a huge car fanatic. That's how he met Will. Will would always service his cars. So since he was a kid, he always wanted to be in the car business, from just playing with Hot Wheels and collecting cars and all that stuff. So I met him. We hit it off right away, and that started that partnership. And I remember me and him went to like our first auction together, and we're looking at all these exotic cars, and we made that transformation, but we failed miserably for like the first 6 months.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Because when you go from selling one type of product to another type of product, it's like starting the business all over again. So everything I thought I knew was a total game changer in the exotic world. I was getting eaten alive. So
what was one of the things that you probably thought you knew, but
you know, when I was buying like my BMWs and Audis, I knew the price right away. I knew how to finagle stuff. I could buy something that had an accident, because $5,000 car, it wasn't a lot of risk. With these other cars, you need to make sure like the Carfax is right, because nobody's going to spend $100,000, $200,000 on a car that has a bad Carfax report. You need to know the market, what they're selling for, and also I'm competing with these big dealerships now that have a lot of marketing budgets and all that. Mm-hmm. So those are all things to like look into. So we failed for 6 months. Then I went back to doing kind of what I was comfortable with, which was like the European stuff, but I just stepped it up just a little bit.
Okay.
Got comfortable, got my confidence back, and then COVID hit, and I bought a Lamborghini, and my business, everyone was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's COVID. I'm like, you know, it's a Lamborghini. Let's try it out. So we bought the car, and we sold it, and from that point on, we just took off.
Why did you see, was it a good deal? Was it that you were just like, let's try this again?
It was a little bit of everything. I just wanted to buy a Lamborghini, and it was a cool car. But I think I just wanted to give it another shot, because the first go at it we had with these higher end cars, it didn't work out too well. So I wanted to give it another chance.
So you lost your confidence at that point? Sorry to cut you off, but I want to talk more about this confidence situation. Yep. There's moments where you're like, your confidence sucks. And
here's the other thing too, like now it's not just my money, like I'm handling somebody else's money. So like most people would really not care. For me, if I'm handling someone else's money, I'm going to handle it. I'm going to handle their money better than my money. So it was definitely a lot of pressure, and you got to think too, I'm at a proving phase, right? So at that point you're like questioning everything, and you know, you have these failures and you kind of kick yourself around because of these failures, and you just got to keep going, dude. Like if you want it to happen, it's going to happen. It might not happen the next day or the next month, but if you're able to correct your mistakes and maximize all the strengths you have, I think at the end there's a light at the tunnel. So I bought this one Lambo, So that one kind of went into the portfolio. I was like, okay, cool, I'll buy another one. Then I bought a Ferrari California, then an R8. And what I started doing is I took it one by one instead of buying all these cars, right?
Right.
And if they worked, I kind of wrote them down. And now I have a portfolio of like 30, 40 cars I buy because they've worked in the past. So why wouldn't they work now?
In the last year and a half, your dealership has just taken over basically the exotic game here in town.
I would say this year, to be honest with you.
This year.
And it's funny, to rewind, I didn't start selling cars out of state until one day I posted a Facebook ad.
Okay.
And I thought it was here in Florida or in Orlando, but it was in North Carolina, and someone wrote me a message. I'm like, North Carolina? I'm like, fuck, man, I can't do anything. But then I was like, wait, I'll ship the car. If he wants a car, let's make it happen. So I told the guy, I'm like, FaceTime me. I'll show you my place. I'll show you the car. And long story short, I shipped the car over there.
Okay.
So that kind of opened up the whole nationwide thing. So then I started posting cars on Facebook Marketplace in like different territory areas like Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas. And it started working.
Is this where your marketing background kind of helps you out?
In a sense, yeah. I think it just happened on accident, and I saw an opportunity. I think that's the biggest thing. Like sometimes, like the opportunities that are in front of you, you don't see them until you see them. Mm-hmm. So I made a mistake, and because of that mistake, that actually turned into a huge opportunity. And now instead of focusing on just Orlando and selling maybe 2-3 cars, I have all these territories now, and we're doing 4, 5, 6 cars or whatever.
Let's go back to the days that you started. Around how many cars a month were you selling?
So when I was by myself, I was doing about, on average, 10 cars. Then I hit 15 cars, and I hit that 20 car mark.
20 car a month?
Yep, by myself.
By yourself?
By myself.
That's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How did you keep organized? Shit.
I wasn't.
You weren't?
Nope. That's always been my weakest point. Still is now. I guess my strength has just been buying, selling, kind of learning that part of the business.
Right.
Even now with the business, I focus more on like buying all the cars and building the relationships with these dealerships, these wholesalers. Like I said, half the times I buy this car and I already have it sold before it even lands at my facility.
So let's talk about big dealership, small dealership kind of mentality, yep. Right? What do you think are the big differences between those, right? Obviously money, floor plan, money. Yep.
I think the biggest difference, I'm kind of speaking in our terms here, but I would say the difference between us and these big dealerships is we're very creative. Me and my guys, we're not scared to try new things. I feel like these big dealerships, they're kind of locked into the structure and system, and you have to do this a certain way. And I feel like one thing they really lack on is teaching their salespeople how to be more nonchalant about things. Because anytime we get other people that go to dealerships and then they come to us, first thing they tell me is like the salespeople are pushy and like all this stuff. Like I always tell my guys, I'm like, look, when these clients come in, remember, they don't need this car, they want it. It's an exotic car. So you just make a friend, your customer service has to be on point, and if they want the car, they want it. Like, you don't have to push to sell.
Yeah, I agree.
You sell yourself, not the car. Like, I
agree. You build the relationship.
Correct. You build a relationship and you treat them good. Because that's the other thing. I had this Marvel guy come in, and he was just dressed normal and stuff, and he went to I'm not going to say, he went to a dealership, and they treated him like crap. He pulled up in a Prius, and he was there to buy a Range Rover. Long story short, they kind of treated him like crap, and then he ended up coming to us, and he ended up being a client.
Did he buy a Range Rover?
No, he ended up buying a G-Wagon, I think.
A G-Wagon, wow. Yep. You're killing it with those, man.
Yeah.
They're so expensive.
I'm running out, though, man. I had a good batch of them this month, and now they're
gone, huh?
Yep.
So you feel social media has helped you build your dealership?
Social media is a part of it. I think the biggest thing with social media is not selling cars on there. I think it's actually building relationships with these dealerships and stuff like that. So like one thing I do anytime we sell cars through auction, it shows me like who buys the cars. So I call that person directly, I introduce myself, and then I build relationships with these people. So now when I get a car, before it even hits our website, I'm calling 5 or 6 people. see if I could sell
dealerships to
it.
see if I could sell it.
Dealerships, wholesalers, yeah. And right now with the market, like they're almost paying what I would sell to a normal client anyways.
Yeah, because there's no inventory in the market.
No inventory.
Yeah, I did it in '05. I bought a Ferrari 430.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you fit in that car?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I always joke, but my car payments at that time between all the cars that I had bought were $9,000
Oh, wow.
a month. Yeah. I was 21 years old.
What? I had a G35 at 21 and I thought I was somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I express it here a lot of times. I had the rich kid syndrome, right? So I come from my dad was very wealthy at that point, and you know, as I graduated college, the real estate market was hot.
Yep.
I made a ton of money quick. I said, here we go. I'm going to be a millionaire, and I have a rich dad just in case. So I went crazy.
You had backup.
I had backup.
Yeah.
The funny thing is the backup never showed up. So when the real estate market turned, I went down with it. And when
that was what, 08, 09?
Yeah, '08.
Yep.
Yeah, '08. And when I called my dad, he was like, nope, good luck. Try to figure it out.
My business partner, that happened to them too. They lost everything in 08, 09, and now they've bounced back huge.
Yeah. The bounce back is always the funnest part.
It is. I mean, you can't be up all the time. The downs make the ups funner, because once you get back up, you're like looking back and you're like, oh wow, like this was worth it, or I went through this to get to this point.
How do you keep balance? What do you like to do for fun, right? Because lately I've been talking to a lot of people, like, how do you blow off steam? Because we're in this business all the time. We're obviously trying to grow. We're trying to move forward, but then you have all these things, like you said. You feel like shit sometimes. You lose a little bit of your,
back then I'd just go party and drink downtown like everybody else does. I think at some point you just get to the point where it's just not as fun anymore. Sure. I mean, I still like to go out with my friends and stuff, but I do it a lot less now. So for me now, it's just, I guess, just having solid relationships with people. I think the cool thing about my business is I attract all kinds of people. So you could do real estate, landscaping, whatever, but everyone likes cars. So, and everyone in Orlando, for the most part that we know, they have nice cars. So I think it's easy for me to like meet these people and build solid relationships with them, because we have that one interest, which is cars. So that's something I love about my business. I feel like the car business is one of the sexiest businesses you can do, because who doesn't like, Ferraris and Lamborghinis and exotic cars and stuff.
It's interesting the type of people that you meet also, because they're probably teaching you a lot.
100%. And that's always been one thing. Even before I got into the exotic thing, I would always ask people like, hey, what's working for you? Or even other dealerships, I'd be like, hey, what worked for you guys this month? Like, I'm never afraid to ask for help. I saw this one thing last night. It was like, you always want to be like act like the dumbest person in the room.
I love acting like it.
Me too. It's like when people, like, I meet people and they're like, oh yeah, I own this company and blah, 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 and this and that. And they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I sell cars. That's it. Just simple answers.
Don't say anything else, yeah. And people want to help you too.
100%.
It's crazy that a lot of people are so scared to ask for help.
Yep.
Because I ask for a lot of help. Tomorrow I have a meeting with a big guy in the restaurant business, and I simply shot him a text and I said, hey man, I need help with structuring a deal. Yep. Can we go out to dinner? And he was like, sure, absolutely, man. I haven't heard from you in a while. Why haven't you contacted me? Like, I'm like, shit, this guy wants to actually hear from me and see what's going on.
And that's one thing I've been getting better at now, because one thing we were lacking 3 months ago was systems and processes out of place, because we were kind of just selling cars and
just doing it, paperwork, and that's it.
But then I had this dealership, good friends of mine, HBI Auto, they're in North Carolina. They flew in for the day and actually coached my guys, and they showed me all their structures and processes and having quarterly goals and all that stuff. So that was like 3 months ago, which is the same time I kind of started my transformation of just waking up early. And
so you decided 3 months ago to start waking up at 5 a.m.?
Correct. So I quit drinking. That only lasted a month. But no, I don't drink as much now. And if I go out, like I won't get
obliterated.
I won't get like that. So I'm still able to wake up. So I started waking up early. I started going to church. Not that kind of church. It's called Journey. It's more like
It's open.
Yeah, it's very open, and if I can get one thing out of what they say that I can apply in life, then for me that's a hit. So
that is a hit.
I've been like on this mission now of like pursuit of happiness, because I've been on this money grind all these years, and like once you get to the point where you don't have to worry about your bills and you're making money and all that, it's like, okay, what's next? Like I'm still miserable, I'm stressed out, like I need to find something. So now I'm like searching for happiness.
I was always like in the pursuit of money, and it was always about money and always about that. And last year when COVID hit, that I had to close one of my stores, I decided like, man, I'm either doing this wrong because I'm unhappy and it's not working for me. And then I shifted and said, now it's all about building the legacy. It's not about the money, right? It's what is my legacy going to sound like when I pass away? And now like the connections and everything that I do with people is try to help and formulate their business. I don't care if I don't have a portion of it, but like I want to make sure that everybody that's surrounding me is going up and moving up and organized and moving in the same direction as I am, right? Because I think a lot of people lose time in those drinking, going out, meeting people that are not going to help you move in the right direction.
Well, here's what I told myself. I'm like, okay, you go out for 6 hours and have a great time, right? But you wake up the next day, you feel like shit. Then you wake up the next day and you feel like shit. So I'm like, the 6 hours of fun isn't worth the 48 hours of being miserable and having a headache. And then I'm in a meeting with my guys and I can't even focus or run a proper meeting. So it just wasn't worth it for me.
So there was a big change in you.
Big change in that. And then like I said, I started going to church and I started looking at life differently, because before I would get like short-tempered about just stuff at work, and I'd get like super upset and stressed out. And you know, now I wake up and I'm like, look, man, I got both of my arms, I got both of my legs, I'm not paralyzed, I'm able to drive a car and do what I love. I love driving cars. That's a hobby of mine, obviously. So you just look at life differently. No matter what's going on, like it could always be worse. And I think that's helped me out a lot, and just like waking up and being happy every day. And I wake up early because my phone now doesn't blow up. Instead of me waking up at 9 a.m. and I'm rushing and my phone's going off the hook.
You're stressed from the beginning.
You start the day stressed out.
No. You're stressed from the beginning. It's better when you wake up early and you kind of focus on
wake up early, have a clear mind. Even if you're not doing nothing, I'll literally just sit in my bed and I'll go on Instagram and I'll sit there.
Chill. Yeah. Yep. Where do you want to take Falcon?
Man, it's crazy. Like what we're doing this year, like this was like our 5-year goal, maybe even more. So I really don't know, to be honest with you. I think right now we're just going to enjoy the ride and keep growing the way we are. But ideally, I do think in the next year or so, we're going to potentially get into a franchise. That's something of interest. Build a larger location. Since my business partner does real estate, we want to buy our own property and start building that. Really just keep doing what we're doing. Now our price range of cars can be anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000. So I think by next year we'll probably be dabbling in the $5 to $1 million range in cars.
Really, really rare exotics, yeah.
Correct.
That has a great market too.
Yep, and it's like I said, my business partner, he's already buying these houses for $600,000 to $1 million, and if we can buy $1 million car and make the same amount of money, then
and less time,
and that's the other reason. So my business partner loves the car business because real estate's great. Don't get me wrong, right? But it from start to finish, you don't get paid on a house for like 6 months. Car business, we're able to get in and out, and we get paid right away, and it's just a easier process in a sense. Yeah. Correct.
It's an ongoing thing. Do you think is going to be easy in the sense, because I know those cars are so impossible to reach, right?
Man, it's never easy. Like I said, I always do so whenever we buy a car that we really didn't have any experience in, my business partner's like, you think we'll sell it? I'm like, you never know till you know. And till this day, I say that, and we always have
You
luck
always
with
sell
it.
it.
I think the other part is, though, just doing your research. So, like, before I buy such an expensive car, like, you want to make sure you know what the market is, know who's selling what car. One of my things I would do when I'd first buy, like, a crazy car is my goal is to be the cheapest guy. Now it's not, because, like, I know these cars, so I know they're going to sell. But I look at pricing, I look at where these cars are at, I look at the whole market as a whole, and you study that.
When do you start getting nervous when the car is in your lot? What, 20 days, 30 days? What?
No, I don't get nervous,
care?
man.
You
Nope.
don't care.
Everything sells. And now we've been really pushing that hard. I mean, literally, I bought a car yesterday, and we sold it on Instagram, and the car didn't even arrive here yet.
Yeah. So it's fast.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to ask you, relationship-wise, now that you made this change in the last 3 months, how's your relationship gotten better with your dad? How has it gotten better with your business partner, right? Making those changes, do you feel that everybody that's surrounding you now is changing in the sense of maybe you have friends that weren't in a good direction, going in a good direction. Now you see them less frequently because you're now evolving as a human?
Yeah, so a relationship with my dad, since we work together all the time, it's just hard. And one thing I've gotten better at is actually spending time with him outside of work. Because when you're working together, it's just hard, and like it's a different atmosphere, right? You know, it's not the same. So one thing I've been doing with my father now is every Friday I'll take him out to lunch. We'll go to eat somewhere and just sit, talk, shoot the shit, like just outside of work.
You don't talk business?
Not really, no.
Good.
And like I'll call home on a Sunday or something and see what he's doing,
What
you
he's
know,
up.
because my father's older now. So, you know, when parents get older, they get in that like that cranky mood.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get upset for no reason. Like sometimes my dad will come in, he's just pissed off. I'm like, dude, what are you mad about? Yeah, what's up?
Like,
So relationship with my father has gotten good. Relationship with my business partner has always gotten good. I mean, I look at my business partner as a mentor because he's just been so successful, and from losing everything to having what he has now and giving me that opportunity. I mean, my business partner has just been amazing, and like he's not just the money person. Like we're best friends, and I love his family, his wife, his kids. Like it's not just a partnership in business.
You guys are family now.
We're family. We have a relationship. So I think that's awesome that, you know, I'm able to make money and make smiles and just share everything as a whole. And then with my friends, I think all my friends are in some kind of cool business, whether it's vapes, shout out to Sean, whether it's landscaping, whether it's the car business, whether it's the restaurant industry where people go to your restaurant and eat.
Right.
I think it's just cool, man. I think it's cool that we all own a business and we all do something different, and somehow we're all able to support that business, whether it's going to your restaurant, whether it's sending someone to your dealership to buy a car, whether it's sending someone to buy a house you're selling. I think it's just a life of, or circle of life, so to say.
Yeah. Good. Well, man, we're glad to have you on the episode.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Do I get my tacos? Or I heard there was gonna be food.
Payment.
I heard there's gonna be food here. I'm
Now
gonna
or
check under the
later,
table.
You want a free taco? You want a free taco? Hit the button to subscribe. Maybe I'll give you a free taco.